Money, power, and influence are not exactly things that are readily available. To do these things, trust me, it takes time, work, and a fair lot of shady dealing. Alternatively, if you're fortunate enough, you'll be born into a family that has a long history. These particular families have amassed incredible wealth, clout, and influence, which they have used to establish themselves in prominent positions in society. These families are so strong that they have essentially won the economic game and done a small amount to mold society to suit their preferences. These are a few of the wealthiest families on the planet. The Rothschild family. If you're familiar with conspiracy theories, you've probably heard them all, from the ludicrous to the tenable, about the Rothschild family. The Rothschilds were involved in some form or another. In fact, if the first page of Google is to be believed, the Rothschild family, with a mind-boggling total net worth of $400 billion, has done everything from controlling every central bank in the globe to even controlling the weather. Who are the true Rothschilds? Alien emissaries are simply some really wealthy individuals. They are, in fact, a German-based multinational banking and financial dynasty. Early in the 18th century, they achieved international acclaim and began to operate across Europe. The Austrian government even promoted them to nobility. Thus, they are indeed extraordinarily affluent. But as you undoubtedly already knew, Meyer Rothschild, whose strong financial skill ultimately led him to become a prominent member of the global banking sector and establish his 5 sons of the financial capitals of Europe, was the catalyst for the Rothschild family's historical ascent to power. They were able to successfully adapt to the Industrial Revolution amid a period of rising economic growth across Europe, which helped them achieve oligopolistic status in the global trade of metals and oil. Because of their immense authority, the Rothschilds were able to lend money to their clients' whole countries. Wasn't that your typical rich lord then? No. In 1825, they were lending entire governments billions of dollars. They gave the Bank of England enough currency to prevent a market liquidity crisis. They gave loans to France after it was defeated by Prussia. And they gave the British government a £4 million loan barely hours after asking for one. Simply put, they were now living quite comfortably. Since the Realism Party back in the 1970s, the family has adopted a more understated approach to being a financial superpower while spending their riches by giving away enormous quantities of art to charity and generally avoiding public shows of wealth. That will always be a nightmare for me. The Rothschild family is without a doubt very strong, well-connected, and shrouded in secrecy. Thus, there are many conspiracies. However, conspiracy theorists will determine whether the Windsor family is to blame for JFK's killing or our efforts to combat climate change. One of the most well-known and powerful royal families in the world, with familial branches that have spread throughout all of Europe and influence that essentially spans the entire planet. If that doesn't inspire you to seek out your Windsor heir to wed, just wait until you learn how affluent they are. The current British royal family is the 3 children of Prince William and Kate Middleton, George, Charlotte, and Louis, aren't just living in the lap of luxury. They are profiting from the fact that Charlotte is worth $4.3 billion, and Prince George is already valued at $2.8 billion. They have already reached the 10-digit mark, yet neither of them is particularly astounding. The Windsors are not simply ruling over a nation with a $2.7 trillion GDP. Beyond Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, and England, their influence extends to every continent on the planet, including Antarctica, of course. Some of these nations are Canada, where the image of Queen Elizabeth appears on their $20 bill, and the South Pacific island of Tanna, where the Duke of Edinburgh was revered as a genuine god. You might find it unusual to hear this, but did you realize that Queen Elizabeth is legally the owner of 1/6 of the land on the planet? Of sure, she'll be on a few bills. The Queen is the head of state of 16 nations, making her the largest landowner in the world. She owns more than 6 billion acres of land. The Windsor family is theoretically worth an estimated $25 trillion because these nations, like Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, are among the richest in the world and are a part of the so-called Commonwealth realm. That is a lot of power indeed. Even though the Windsors are currently in charge of a constitutional monarchy, their power is still enormous. People actually have tattoos of the royal family on their bodies after all. I'm referring to images of Queen Elizabeth that are indelible markings on their body. One can only dream they were that well liked. And if you can't support your popularity with outrageous wealth, what good is it? The Windsors can for sure. They own a number of castles, palaces, and estates that are all extremely expensive, and most of which they didn't even need to purchase. The British royal family's royal collection, one of the largest art collections in the world, with more than 7,000 paintings, is another option. 150,000 old master prints, and 40,000 watercolors and drawings. They possess historical images, tapestries, and crown jewels, which are valued at $4 billion. This collection contains pretty much everything that one may regard to be art. Kensington Palace, valued at an estimated $630 million, and Buckingham Palace, worth $4.9 billion, are two examples of the Windsor's opulent royal assets. They casually reside in one of the most costly and well-known buildings in the world. Family. What do you get when you combine a hearty dose of family riches with oil, money, and time? The Koch family, an oil billionaire dynasty with a current net worth of $100 billion, has altered both the political and economic landscape of the United States. The Koch family began their ascent to prominence with a business with a long name. Before being thankfully renamed the Koch Industries in honor of Fred Koch, one of its founding members, the company was known as the Wood River Oil and Refining Company. His two sons, David and Charles Koch, who was known as the Koch brothers and the subject of countless Coca-Cola jokes, were in charge of running it. That is, until David, who was 79 years old, passed away in 2018. Now, to give you an idea of why the Koch family is on this list, please take note: the Koch Industries, with yearly revenue of $115 billion, is currently the second largest privately owned firm in the United States and the sixth largest in the entire globe. But Koch Industries isn't only wealthy, you know, it is also abundant. They have so many subsidiaries and have purchased so many businesses. They now carry out every task successfully. Additionally, these acquisitions were extremely wise choices. I'm not even kidding. One of them is the $22.5 billion acquisition of Georgia Pacific, one of the biggest producers in the world, and paper distributors. They sell a wide range of household goods under well-known brand names like Vanity Fair and Brawny Angel Self. Additionally, they invested $7.5 billion in the acquisition of Molex, a producer of electronic components, and collaborated with the U.S. National Guard. Whatever type of catastrophe is approaching, that's paper, electricity, and protection. The Koch clan is prepared. Not only are they wealthy, but they also devote a negligible portion of their fortune to ensuring that the political climate of the nation is exactly as they desire. It turns out that you don't have to be a politician or a member of royalty to get a few politicians to speak your language. But real estate is the one thing the Koch family is truly passionate about. On the Las Vegas Strip, they bought a multi-billion-dollar, 63-story, 4,000-unit hotel and casino. And that was only the beginning. More hotels and hospitality properties are on their shopping list. They're currently merely looking for industries they can take over to put on their bingo card. The Walton family in this case is, in my opinion, a powerful family with an absurd net worth of $169.7 billion. And for such a huge firm, its net wealth exceeds the GDP of some nations. But they are hardly discussed. You've heard of Walmart, right? I am familiar with Walmarts. All of us have seen the names. But did you realize that there are over 10,500 Walmart locations throughout 24 nations, which employ over 2.2 million individuals worldwide? I most certainly did not. Sam Walton established Walmart in 1962. It subsequently developed into the largest firm in the world by revenue, earning more than $540 billion. The Waltons became the wealthiest family in the country as a result. Let me tell you, Walmart is so strong that just having it in the neighborhood is enough to crush any other businesses. In a few years, a small community that gets a Walmart will lose nearly half of its retail business. Fell at this huge retailer's feet. Naturally, Walmart has an absurdly small consumer base. Every week it serves about 220 million consumers and appeals to almost everyone thanks to its affordable prices and extensive product selection. All of the Waltons have been successful in more than one enterprise. They haven't amassed nearly $100 billion by being a one-trick pony. After all, one of these businesses was Sam's Club, a network of warehouse clubs that offered general products and groceries. It ran 600 warehouses and made up to $57 billion in earnings. Even their philanthropic organizations give something away. With $1 billion spent on the latter, the Walton Family Foundation has been able to tackle environmental and educational challenges. The Waltons have also dabbled in politics a little bit, because to their enormous wealth. Though many heirs to the Walmart throne have donated substantial sums of money to opposing political parties in an effort to sway policy, the Waltons' political views aren't precisely uniform. The Morgan family. Like a particularly dull season of The West Wing, the Morgan family's ascent to global renown began in the late 19th century with possibly the most well-known Morgan of them all. That character from all the documentaries on early industrialization in America is John Pierpont Morgan. J.P. Morgan, who was born to be a banker, would follow in his father's footsteps and enter the financial industry, eventually rising to fame as one of the most well-known bankers in the world and having his name immortalized by one of the most influential financial institutions in the United States, J.P. Morgan and Company. However, J.P. Morgan did not create the first $1 billion corporation only through banking. He started focusing on the steel sector in the late 1890s. He formed a relationship with the Carnegie Steel president and bought the business for $480 million, which at the time was more than the whole federal budget of the United States. Spending money is necessary for making money, and boy did he make money. J.P. Morgan consolidated his steel businesses in 1901 to become U.S. Steel, a $1.4 billion firm that put him at the top of both the banking and railroad industries. Aside from the fact that he served on the board of directors for 48 different companies, he also controlled 60% of the steel sector. This undoubtedly gave the Morgan family tremendous influence in the world's politics and economy. J.P. Morgan belonged to a number of prestigious social clubs where he could mingle with some of society's most influential figures. He even started his own organization, the Metropolitan Club, with influential people like fellow billionaire Cornelius Vanderbilt as members. Morgan was the epitome of cutthroat and was able to amass such money and power by running a very honest and shrewd business. Any rivals were intimidated, outmatched, or outright bought off by him. Upon J.P. Morgan's passing in 1913, he left behind a bank that eventually grew to be the biggest in the country, with $3.7 trillion in assets. J.P. Morgan & Chase is officially the biggest bank in the world by market value, since it has bought so many banks throughout the course of their history. What more could you possibly anticipate from a family that is strong enough to manage the gold supply in the United States and put together a group of bankers to maintain the stability of a whole nation's economy? Which family do you consider to be the most influential? We appreciate you taking the time to visit with us. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and subscribe to our channel to never miss another one.